Tonight on Q2, a growing crisis in Billings and beyond.
To put it bluntly, there are, unfortunately, members of our communities who are more than willing to engage in sex with juveniles for compensation.
We'll take you inside a sting operation as sex trafficking becomes a big focus for the FBI. Plus, making the magic happen.
On our days off, we're able to take him to, for instance, here we take him to Yellowstone. We've taken him to lots of museums. I mean, he's seen so much.
We'll take you behind the scenes with a family of career carnival workers. And later, a second chance at life.
We tried to put a tarp on him and he freaked out and jumped up and just like hopped all the way down the road underneath the guardrail.
A bald eagle will once again be able to fly high, all thanks to a good Samaritan. Your MTN News starts right now. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Keagan Harsha. Sex trafficking and exploitation is one of the worst crimes law enforcement says they encounter. The problem is pervasive in Montana communities, both large and small. Nearly 300 victims of sex trafficking were located nationwide during a recent 2-week FBI operation. That does include people right here in Billings. MTN's Jackie COFFIN joins us from the FBI office with more.
We know for a fact that the appetite for commercial sex with juveniles most certainly exists in Montana and certainly in Billings.
This is video you don't get to see very often. FBI and other law enforcement apprehending suspected sex traffickers is part of Operation Cross Country. The FBI is sharing this video with us to pull back the veil on a very real issue.
Trafficking can exist anywhere that there's a power disparity between a victim and a trafficker, and there's a commodity to exploit.
Officer Toby Baukima works with the Montana Division of Criminal Investigations Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force, which participated in the operation, which was conducted during the first 2 weeks of August.
To put it bluntly, there are, unfortunately, members of our communities who are more than willing to engage in sex with juveniles for compensation.
Through Operation Cross Country, 4 victims of human trafficking were identified in Billings, all adult women. Officer Baukima says the women range from their mid-20s to mid-30s, 2 of whom are white and 2 are women of color. No arrests were made in the Billings portion of the operation.
Instead, what we do is try to identify the folks that are working in commercial sex, approach them in a manner that preserves their dignity, that's non-judgmental, and we just say, you know, are you interested in doing something else? Is this working for you? But no, we don't write prostitution tickets or John tickets or take people to jail for that. The exception being, if we ever have somebody show up intending to engage in commercial sex with a juvenile, that's always a felony. Always a felony.
Nationwide, Operation Cross Country found 84 minor victims of child sex trafficking, 37 actively missing children, and 141 adult victims of human trafficking. Agents arrested 85 suspects nationwide involved in child exploitation and trafficking. Officer Baukima says the tips and investigations keep pouring into his office, showing there's a lot of work left to be done in Montana. In Billings, Jackie COFFIN, MTN News.
A 14-year-old Laurel boy died yesterday due to complications from drowning. Lewis and Clark County Sheriff Leo Dutton says Caden Bitter was swimming with his family at the Lewis and Clark Day Use area on the western shore of Canyon Ferry Lake on Monday afternoon. The family was preparing for lunch in the afternoon when they say they noticed the boy was missing. They found him floating about 10 feet offshore. They pulled him from the water and CPR was performed. Medical crews were able to secure a pulse. However, Bitter eventually passed away in a Missoula hospital. Well, we all know this all too well. It seems like the price of everything is going up these days. Groceries, gas, you name it. And the current rate for inflation currently stands at 8.5%. That is down from 9.1% back in June. But it's no wonder energy prices are also spiking. It's a different story, though, if you're a Yellowstone Valley Electric customer. Our ANDREA LUTZ explains.
It seems the price of everything is going up these days. Groceries, gas. The current rate for inflation stands at 9.1%.
It is hard. Yeah, it is extremely hard, and we feel that.
That's why CEO Brandon Whitman says getting this message out now is more important than ever.
We have customers saying, what's going on? Is this you too? And the answer is no.
Those questions coming on the heels of this. Northwestern Energy asking the Public Service Commission to approve 15.9% of an increase, which would start October 1st.
We're talking something in the neighborhood of $40 a month. It's a lot. We have not left ourselves exposed to the market like other utilities do, and we've had flat rates, and we've not had a rate increase at our co-op since May of 2011.
Like everyone else, Northwestern Energy is feeling the pinch of rising costs too.
We understand that it's incredibly tough for customers right now. Pricing on everything is going up. And importantly, we want customers to know that we have resources to help them.
But for Yellowstone Valley Electric, it's a little different. The co-op is nonprofit.
Some, including Northwestern, they buy up to maybe 30% of their power on the open market, and obviously that's very volatile. We have a different philosophy, been criticized for it a little bit in the past, but we have long-term contracts.
He says because of that, there are no plans to raise rates this year or even next year.
Our rates are stable, very stable. There's a little bit of a cushion there, and we can sustain some of this, and we've been able to prove that, not changing rates now for 11 years.
As for those Northwestern Energy customers, the increase isn't final. It is just a proposal. In Billings, Andrea LUTZ, MTN News.
Hot temperatures across the region once again this afternoon. We're looking at readings 98. Check out Missoula, 97 in Glasgow and Wolf Point, 93 at the Billings Airport so far. Could even hit a little hotter than that. The 95 Sheridan, 91 Miles City, 87 in Cody, and 90 in Livingston through the afternoon. Now, as we get into the next couple of days, we will get a little bit of relief from the heat. High pressure area does remain, though, and that's going to continue to keep us very dry all the way heading right on into Sunday. But Monday into Tuesday, that ridge starts to break down a little bit. Perhaps we'll get a few stray showers and thunderstorms to start to move into the picture. Something very cool you can check out, especially getting closer to midnight tonight. Phil Van Pelt has more.
Witnessing the northern lights in Montana is a rare occurrence, and seeing the event as far south as Billings is even rarer. But with a G2 geomagnetic storm and clear skies on the horizon, the chance to see the northern lights is even greater than ever, especially if you're willing to head just a few minutes outside of town.
The northern lights are a common sight in northern Canada and Alaska, but down here in Montana, sightings are rare.
We're still pretty far south here. It tends to affect places further north more. When one of these events happens.
But this week, you're in luck. For the next 3 days, there's a good chance you'll see the aurora borealis, thanks to the perfect geometric storm.
When we have a larger sunspot event like we're having right now, that mass of particles is enough to then deflect a little bit further south, and that's how places like Montana or Wyoming or even locations like Chicago and maybe even New York might be able to see some of these northern lights as well.
In simplest terms, huge solar flare-up means Mother Nature will be putting on quite the display in the night sky. Montanans were treated to a similar show back in April. Many of our viewers sent us these incredible images back then.
There is a natural cycle to sunspot activity on about a 11-year cycle. So some years there will be more, some years there will be less. But it's just a natural part of the way the sun operates with that huge fusion engine inside of it.
Reimer says this is all just the natural cycle of the sun. The increase in sunspots isn't atypical, and we could continue to see a spike in auroras. What causes these awesome colors, though?
So it's essentially the same thing as a neon light, where you just put some electricity through gas and it will glow as it gets excited. Those charged particles interact with gases in the atmosphere to do the exact same thing. So they just get a little bit of an electric charge and start glowing like a neon lamp would.
If you want to catch it, head out of town to get away from the city lights and look north. A beautiful display, hopefully coming to a cow pasture near you. In Billings, Phil Van Pelt, MTN News.
A bald eagle now has a second chance at life after being rescued right here in Billings yesterday. Today, Arlena Howder spoke with Fish, Wildlife and Parks and also a Good Samaritan who came to that bird's rescue.
There may not be much happening alongside this street in the Billings Heights, but on Tuesday, this was the site of a rescue mission. A juvenile bald eagle was electrocuted by this power line, and a Good Samaritan came to the rescue.
It was an eventful Tuesday for Josh Tometz.
I just happened to, out of the corner of my eye, catch him on the ground on the side of the road.
He's seen a bald eagle perched on top of this power pole from time to time, but wasn't expecting to see it on the ground.
Just pulled over and noticed he had a big wound on his wing, was panting really bad and obviously not in good shape.
Tometz called the non-emergency number at Fish, Wildlife and Parks and was connected with an employee at WHJ Bird Resources.
So I just went and got a chair and tried to get some shade on it for a while as that was their advice, and then grabbed a spray bottle and just hosed it down and tried to keep it cool until they got here.
Fish, Wildlife and Parks also arrived and determined the eagle was severely dehydrated, but thanks to Tometz, it's now being given a second chance at life.
It looks like it's a really good candidate for rehabilitation and re-release as of today.
Winston Greeley with FWP says that particular power pole on Cherry Creek Loop attracts eagles as it looks right over the Yellowstone River.
It looks like it's doing pretty good. It was back on its feet this morning, and they're looking at transferring it to the Bozeman Raptor Center this afternoon.
And it could have gone a completely different way if Tometz hadn't seen the raptor.
It could have gone really bad, but thankful to the public and for Good Samaritans that we have out there to see that.
And for Tometz, he's just glad he can help preserve a little piece of nature.
Because I do think that, someday if we're not careful, it's not going to be around for our kids, which is pretty sad. So.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
Well, still ahead on the MTN 530 News here on Q2, we're going to take you back out to Montana Fair and catch up with one family who's helped bring the fair to life for more than 2 decades now. And later,
I'm Casey Conlon out at Colton Field, where Billings Central is already ahead of the game before their first one has even been played. We'll talk to the Rams coming up.